good with y'all? Just wanted to come on here and really just talk about the hardest part of dealing with multiple injuries, um, and like how I've been able to really get past them, physically and mentally. Um, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. So I'll start with the physical part. I'll just start with that. Um, the physical aspect is not bad. Really teaches you what like your limits of your body and really understanding, you know, um, you can't rush things too much. It's just like a car. Like your body's like a car. Um, Once your car starts breaking down, over time it'll just break down more and more frequent, and that's kind of how I look at, you know, my uh, how I look at my injuries and myself is like a car. It's like I'm getting older for one, two, I keep getting hurt, and three, it's gonna keep happening. Um, and that's just the way life is. Like over time, even without injuries, like over time, you get old and you're more susceptible to illnesses and all the things of that nature. So, you know, as far as physically getting over it, it's not bad. Um, it was actually it's actually a learning experience. It's actually pretty fun. You know, being able to see the progress is really what helps physically. You know your body. Every day you go in there, maybe one day you're sore. The next day you could be like, "Oh, I feel great today." Especially with the long term injuries. The long term injuries are stressful, but it teaches you patience for sure. And as far as like the physical aspect goes with like long term injuries, is understanding you're not gonna be what you were. You may even be better, or you may be worse, and it never stays the same. Like I don't care how you look at it, it never stays the same. So yeah, and that's what I had to realize with my ACL tear. In a million years, I thought I'd never do it, just because like I always feared that was tearing my ACL or tearing anything in my knee in specific, or in general. And when it happened, I kind of already knew. Everybody was telling me, "Oh, you're walking, and you're doing all these great things. Like I don't think it's gonna be a tear, blah blah blah." But like in my head, like when it happened, like everything went out the window as far as like what I was doing at the moment. Like it was on a carry. Like I carried the ball. I went outside, went to cut back up. My leg buckled inside, and I heard four pops, pop, 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 and I dropped the ball, and I like immediately just fell, and I just like grabbed my knee, and I was just like, in my head I already knew, but I didn't want to believe it, and I was just looking around for the trainer, and the next thing you know, I started to panic because like everything just changed right then and there like that, and it was tough, and so like when it happened, like it hurt, but it didn't hurt necessarily. After practice though, I had to wait a full like hour and a half until practice was over, and that's when my knee started to swell up. Like I was just looking down at it, and I was like, "Damn, I was just about to swell up." And so like just dealing with the physical part, it was painful. Like as far as the day of that, like that whole like first week after I tore it was terrible. Like I didn't like the feeling of it. It felt like my knee was super weak, and it was like stuck, like bent, kind of like bent. Like it would never be straight. It would just be like this every time I walked. But yeah, it was painful. Surgery was cool. I was down for about like a week because the medication, like my body doesn't respond well to medications. So like when I took the medication and I got out of the anesthesia and stuff, I was out for a week. Like I would wake up and go right back to sleep. Like I'd wake up, eat, go right back to sleep. I lost like 10 pounds um, during that time. But yeah, the physical part is not bad. After surgery, Just it felt weird because I had the big ass brace on, and then I had crutches, so I couldn't really like walk. But once, actually, the worst part was when you had to get up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom and showering. Reason being because one, you have to wake up, you have to go grab your crutches. Like my bed, if I wish y'all could see this, but so my bed is like kind of like in the middle of the room, but there's room on the outsides of my bed, and my crutches were on the wall by the bathroom. So I had to get up. I had to pick my leg up without moving it. Pick my leg up, sit myself down on the bed, on the edge of the bed, stand up on one leg, grab the crutches, bring them under my arms, and start crutching all the way to the bathroom. And the bathroom's not far at all. It's literally like right there. But I had to go in there, and then like I had to do my business, and then it was just painful, like to get up and having to move, like when I'm trying to sleep. The worst part about that, when I got up to go use the bathroom and stuff, I would come back, lay down, and it would be the hardest time to go back to sleep. I'd be up for an extra like 30 minutes after I used the bathroom. And on top of that, it was already hard enough for me to fall asleep, like fall asleep in general at night because I slept all day. So by the time nighttime hit, I was I was like kind of up. I just got off the game or whatever because I was chilling, and then like I just couldn't sleep even when I took the medication to help me sleep. Um, and and yeah, that was really the worst part. Um, and like the recovery part, as far as like when I started running, the running felt very weird. I felt like I was I felt like I was Bambi. If anybody's seen Bambi, I felt like that, like a baby deer. And uh, it wasn't it wasn't that bad, but it was only bad because like it's literally starting off from square one, learning how to jog, learning even how to walk backwards, walk sideways, crossover, like walk crossover. Um, I started off in the pool. Everything was just weird. And as far as like jumping and sprinting, those were kind of the days where I was like doubting myself if I would ever be the same. And I just kind of had to look, on the brighter side of things and just be like, look, I'm not where I'm at right now, but I think I'll be better when I come back. And and I felt like that was the case until obviously I got hurt again right after I got cleared for my knee. But um, yeah, physically it was cool. Mentally, not so much, just because like I had a lot of eyeballs on me. I still do actually to this day have a lot of eyeballs on me. Um, just with my health in general, and that's the toughest part, is having to deal with like other people's expectations of you. And it's not like you have to be aware of that, but it's literally the sport of football. You have eyes on you anywhere you go. Obviously not in your own home, but you got eyeballs on you when you're in the facility doing the workouts. How you carry yourself, how you walk around, you know, how you treat people in the building, how you treat your coaches, how you treat the trainers, how you treat, uh, you know, academics, how you treat the video people, the media people, like how you approach, people who set up meals for you and things of that nature. They're the strength staff, like all eyes are on you, and you may not know it, but they're watching, and it's kind of weird, but it's what they have to do. They're you were brought to the school to play football and to get a degree, and they don't want bad character guys. They don't want hard heads, like people who just don't want to go to class and things of that nature. Like, which I get, like I totally understand. Like from the student athlete's perspective, I totally get it. But from that coach's aspect and the coach's point of view, it's like I brought you here to build this program to be, or to have a high standard of this program. That's like what it is. But anyway, I got a little sidetracked. But um, physically was cool. Uh, mentally, mentally, probably I was torn. Um, I was very torn just because of the fact that I did everything that I could um, to make a name for myself, and I did everything that I could to make sure to not get hurt. Um, I did everything that I could to make sure that what I was doing was going to set me in the right path of playing football and setting the rest of my the last 2 seasons of my career um, apart from anything that I ever have achieved. Reason being, one, I I haven't played a single offensive snap since 2018, November 17th was the last time I ever took a carry and I ever scored a touchdown. Reason number two, I had just figured out how I was going to do things in terms of my with school because I was getting my degree after that semester. So during season, I would have my degree. Um, at the end of season, I had graduated and got my degree. Um, I would have I it would have set up perfect of how much I accomplished in such a long time for the betterment of myself. And I don't know what I just said there, but let me explain just the first part. I worked so hard after that 2020 season. After that 2020 season, I gained weight. Um, I got my legs a little bigger, and I did nothing but improve from that off season of 2021. From winter workouts to spring ball, I had a great spring ball. I had a great winter workout. My numbers just continued to climb. In spring ball, I knew the playbook like front and back. I had no issues with playbook. I had no issues with injuries. I had no issues with distractions, outside distractions. Um, I had a girlfriend at the time. Um, she had a big reason to do with like how everything went that whole year. Um, but that whole the summer, I had a great summer. All my numbers climbed even higher than what it was in the off season winter workouts. And then fall camp, I had a great fall camp until I got hurt. I got hurt in fall camp, and that's when I messed my back up again. I just had a terrible back spasm because my with my back issues, they flare up every now and then when I'm like when I'm on overload and so I had a great fall camp. Other than that injury, I was out for like a week, and then when I came back, I came back like I didn't lose a step when I came back, and so um, when I came back, I was expected to play receiver and be like a blocker, like you have like a up back, like a not like a fullback, but like a skilled player, like doing slices, or you would do like he would lead block, or he would do slips and go out for the flat, or slip go out for a wheel, or line me up outside, have me do like a smoke screen, just catch it in space, boom, let me get 5 to 10 yards, or a tough 4 yards. and I would have ran a bunch of swings. I would have ran a bunch of like outside plays because my legs are long, so like those plays are like bread and butter for me. And it's so easy for me to separate myself from everybody else in the room because I'm 6'2", I'm 220 pounds, like, and I'm fast, I'm strong, like I can catch, like I don't really have issues with my hands. Like if I haven't caught in a while, okay, like I'll drop a couple. But yeah, I was supposed to play that season and like play more. I don't think play like play, but I think play a lot more than what I did because they finally started to see what kind of player I was. I was ready. I was mentally focused. Like I was there. I was present. Didn't think of what is gonna happen if I get. I need to get a couple catches a game, or I need to get 3 carries a game. I never thought about that. I just thought of I'm doing my thing right now, and I will be rewarded some way somehow. And unfortunately, I got rewarded with a torn ACL, and so coming back mentally, it tore me apart. Um, because I worked so hard that off season, and the first things I said to my coach when he came up to me after, when I was on the floor and I started panicking and I started crying and stuff, and he held my hand and he was like, he held my hand and he was like, it's gonna be okay, and I just like, coach, why me? Like I try, I worked so hard. Like you saw, like I told you, I said you saw it. I was like, you saw it. I worked so hard. And I was like, everybody saw me work so hard. Like why me? Like why does this have to happen? And I'm like in tears. I'm crying. Like I'm just devastated because I knew like that just changed everything like that. And I didn't know how to really explain it at the time. But I think when that happened, and I had just thought about this previous year, and and I think the reason why I was so scared in that moment was because I know once you tear your ACL, you're never the same. Some people come back better, like Adrian Peterson. Like that's the biggest. That's one of my biggest reasons that I played football was because of Adrian Peterson. And when he came back from that torn ACL, I think torn meniscus, and I think LCL as well. And he came back and he did what he did. He became the Russian King, was the MVP, almost broke ED's record. And I always thought the ACL would have been a rite of passage for me. And I never really got the rite of passage yet, in my opinion. And I feel like once I get back, I'll have that. But going through that whole process mentally was tough. I cried a ton because at first it was just speculation. Oh, it might be just MCL because they did the test and stuff on the field when it happened, and they was just like, oh, everything seems still intact because they're pulling on your leg, and like if it's like hard to pull my leg in a certain position, and think it's like this. Here's my knee, here's the bottom of my leg, and then here's my thigh. And so if they pull it like this or they pull it like that, and if it's tight, obviously things are still intact supposedly, but you won't really tell at the moment because like everything is still like holding on, but also like it's torn, but it feels like it's still holding on. So like a lot of the times they'll be like, oh, it's just MCL at first, and then they, after everything like kind of dies down, and you like, you wait a little bit, and then your knee starts to swell up, and then you kind of come in the next day, and then you look at the knee and he's super swollen. You do the test again, and then it's a little more loose, and then you're like, oh shit, then it might be this, that, or the third. I'm no doctor, I'm no expert. I'm just speculating because that's just kind of how I gotten it, at the time. And then so I got the MRI or whatever. In my head, like when it happened, I knew immediately that I tore my ACL. I didn't want to say anything to nobody, so I was just like, when people asked me, I was like, oh, I don't know. I think it's ACL or whatever, and they're like, what the heck? Like you're walking, like I was like, yeah, I'm walking, but this shit hurts. And And so when I got the phone call, because I stayed here, I stayed here while the team went back to Stanford to go practice for Cal week 1. Um, I was like in bed and got a phone call. Because I knew I was anticipating the phone call all like the next for those 2 days leading up to that day, because that was the day I would have found out my results. It was on a Monday, I believe, or Wednesday. It was on a Wednesday. And so that Monday they told me, oh, it should be. I had the MRI on Monday. The results would have came in on Wednesday. And so I got my phone rang, and I wanted to cry once the phone rang because I saw the name and I was just like, okay, like it's either good news or bad news. But in my head, I already knew my ACL's like I'm done. Like my season is over with, regardless of how you look at it. So I'm thinking in my head like, okay. But when I answer, I'm like, yes sir. And then he's like, hey, I'm sorry, TJ. We saw your results, but you tore your ACL, buddy. And it's like they said ACL, MCL, and meniscus. And I'm like, my knee is fucking blown. Like, I was like, my knee is blown. So I'm sitting there like I'm laying down. Like had to close my eyes because I was just like, bro, how am I gonna come back from this? Like, mind you, I'm 23 years old at the time, and I'm just sitting there like, bro, like, what do I do? I was 22. I was like, I'm sitting there like, bro, what do I do? And so, um, I'm like, bro, what do I do? So I'm like, I just I'm laying down, I close my eyes, and I'm just like, I wanted to cry. And then he's like, everything's gonna be okay. And then I started to cry. Once I like opened my eyes again, I started crying. And, I just hung up the phone and I just immediately started crying. And I just couldn't, like, I had to get up. I sat in my corner. Over there where that vacuum's at. I literally sat in that corner where my I don't know if y'all can see that skateboard, but I sat in that corner and I just I let everything out. Like, all the things I was feeling, I let it all out. And I let all my emotions out, everything that I had, just because like I didn't want to face it, but at the time even though I knew like I was done for, once I finally got the word, I was kind of like, okay, now I can feel all this, because I was walking around kind of upset the last 3 weeks, or yeah, like 2 weeks, because I'm like, or the last like week or half a week, and I'm sitting there like, bro, why? Like, I did nothing to nobody. I ain't treat nobody with no disrespect. Like, I didn't understand, why I had to get that injury in specific. Because if all the people who know about the ACL is like, once that is gone and you have to get a new one, it's like you will never feel the same. Like my legs still do not feel the same, like at all. My right leg is so much stronger than my left. And so it's like, and like the way you cut, it feels extremely weird. Like throughout all last season when I was trying to practice, like right when I was coming back, it was so hard for me to like get busy and try to make my left move to go right. Like, it was so hard for me to kind of deal with that. And I had let it all out. I called my parents. Right after I hung up, I sat in the corner. I called my parents, and I just couldn't explain it to them. And I told my parents, I was screaming, like I was crying, like just on the top of my lungs, like just being like, "Mom, tore my ACL, like I'm done." And my parents, like the worst part about that was hearing my dad. Like, hearing my dad cry was probably one of the craziest. Like, I've heard him cry a couple times, like when my grandpa had passed, when I was in the 10th grade. Hearing my dad cry like about that was crazy. Hearing my dad cry about this was crazy as well, just because all the things I told my dad that I told my dad leading up to me tearing my ACL. I told him I worked extremely hard. I came home in the summer. I worked out in 110-degree weather with sweats on, with a hoodie on, tied up, trash bags underneath me. I worked out every day in the summer at home, and I told him straight up. I said, "Dad, I said, Dad, there's big things coming." I said, I worked way too hard for this not to be a good year for me. And my dad believed it. My dad didn't even have to say, he told me I didn't have to say nothing because he already knows how hard I work. Ever since me and him got into it back in 2016, that Christmas, 2016 Christmas, I wasn't even at a football program. I wasn't in a football program at the time. And I'm already graduated high school. I'm rehabbing. Once we got into it about me not being like more assertive about my dreams and like really looking at the bigger picture of everything. Once we got into it about that, that was it. That's the last time we ever had that conversation. And now my parents hate when I come home because all I want to do is work out. My parents want me to just chill which I appreciate because, like even with now, like with my body and how it's reacting to certain injuries, like my parents, they wish I would chill out a lot more. But they understand why I go so hard every time I'm on the field or every time I'm in practice or every time I work out or every time I come home is because, it's something I dreamed about and it's something that my parents always saw in me, but they never realized or they never would have thought I would accomplish the things that I have playing this sport. They just thought I would be like, I was good at it and then I would stop. But I was good at it and I kept going like this as far as up here. And I just kept going like this and climbing and climbing and climbing. And to me, it seemed like I never failed to surprise them of how hard and how much I was willing to sacrifice to get to where I am like today. I sacrificed a lot of free time. I never really went out like in high school, never really went to parties, damn near none at all. I probably went to like 2 and that was damn near like family parties. But the mental side of the torn ACL was insane because I had my ups and downs, and it wasn't even like because I had a bad day like of PT or I had a bad day of rehab or I had a bad day of running today. It was more so of thinking about the future, like when I come back, am I gonna be this? Like, am I gonna be what I was that night scrimmage that we had? And I scored like 4 or 5 times that night. I was happy. I was healthy. Like, am I gonna get back to that? Like, am I gonna or am I not gonna be the same? Am I gonna be overweight or am I gonna be underweight or am I gonna be, is my leg gonna be too weak and it's gonna force me to stop? Like, it was so much things that was going on in my head that I just did not understand, and that was the hardest part. And with the other injuries that I had, my back when I first got to JUCO was something different as well. That was really when I took that whole first one in, last one out, to a whole nother level. Like, my classes won't start till 10 and I'm at school at 7. And it's because that's the only time I would have a ride. And so what I did was I would read. I'd try to read a Bible. I have this book called Walking with God. Great book. If you find it, I don't know the title of it. It's somewhere. It might be in my backpack, but that book really helped me change my mentality and really change my outlook on life and how I should really follow my Lord and Savior. And so I did that. When it came to practice, I couldn't really do much. I was dealing with spine stuff, and everything I did was on my own. I didn't have any coach to tell me or to rehab me. I was more so I was more so on my own, asking questions about offense, asking questions about recruiting, getting all that situated. Once I got the recruiting part situated, all I had to do was just get healthy. Because I figured that out when I got hurt. I figured out the recruiting part. Once I figured out the recruiting part, I didn't even worry about getting recruited yet until I got suited back up. And, and I don't want to bring this up, but dating back to high school, I played my whole senior year with a broken leg and torn ligaments in my right leg. And I broke my fibula, I believe. I think it's the big bone, the big bone on the outside. Whatever the big bone on the outside is, I think is the fibula. It might be my tibia. No, that doesn't sound right. It was my fibula. And I tore ligaments in my ankle. And I played my whole senior year like that. Week 1 is when I hurt it, and then I was out for a couple of weeks. I think it was like 2-3 weeks. And then I tried to come the game I came back. It was painful during the beginning of that game, and I didn't even do nothing. All I did was warm up, and I was in so much pain. And I'm thinking, I'm like scared because I'm like, I don't want to pull out, but I also don't want to give up on my team. And that was never an option for me. It was just like a fleeting thought. Like, should I just ask the trainer like if this is a good idea to suit up or to play? By that time, but once that thought hit me, the whistle blew and it was time to play, and I was like, I'm good. And I tied my cleats. The game I went out there, the first drive had a couple carries, and then the second drive of the game on offense, we're having a good drive, couple pass plays here and there, and then it was like first and 10, 2nd and 5, I think. I was one of the two, and we call option. It was like, Oakland left, and I'm like, okay, bet. And I know I'm about to score because it's man on the outside. The backer is crept in, and the safety is playing like kind of high on number 2. So I'm sitting there like, oh, I'm out of here. And so, boom, the ball snapped. I take my steps, and I knew he was gonna pitch it to me because that backer came and scraped. That backer that I said was crept in, he scraped over the top to grab the quarterback, and the DN was supposed to grab me, or the DN was supposed to grab the quarterback, but the backer was supposed to grab me. But they both went to the quarterback, so my quarterback just said, my cousin had pitched it to me, and I'm like, oh, I get the ball, I tuck it. Soon as I look up to like, I see nothing but green grass, and I'm like, I'm about to score. Soon as I like put my left foot in the ground to just like accelerate, I felt the backer that scraped that went to the quarterback. He like last second, once the ball pitched, he turned, grabbed the back of my jersey, and pulled me down. And I don't know if y'all ever saw, it was kind of like Odell's injury, but it was much different. It was like Le'Veon Bell's injury when he tore I think his MCL and meniscus and broke his ankle. It was just like that. I literally, once I took my left foot, stuck it in the ground, and tried to accelerate up, buddy grabbed my whole shoulder pad. It was like right here. Grabbed my whole shoulder pad, yanked me down, and like fell on me. So I can't really explain it, but my leg basically. Okay, I'll explain it like this. So here's my leg. Here's the front. Here's my knee, the front of my knee. When he landed on me, it went like this. Boom. And I was like, when it happened, I thought my leg like completely broke. And I do not want to look. I don't want to look at my leg. So I'm sitting there like, I'm laying there like, that hurts so bad. And I'm like grabbing my knee, and I'm like, bro, what the hell just happened? And I closed my eyes, and I'm like, I need to look. And I looked at my leg, and my leg was straight. Like my leg was perfectly fine, but it was in so much pain. I'm looking at it like, whew, like as long as like I didn't see no bone sticking out, or I don't see like my foot turned or my kneecap like turned to the other side. I was like, whew. I'm good. I tried to get up. I'm in pain. Like, I'm trying to get up and just like walk it off. I get up and I immediately fall. Boom. And that's when I knew like it's broke. Like my whole leg was like my leg is broke and my knee was all messed up. Um, but the knee kind of like just went away like in like a couple of days. But the ankle is what really stayed for a while after that. So so fast forward, I get through that. I gain a bunch of weight. Like I go through my whole season, playing on a broken leg. Went to the Senior Bowl with college coaches watching me. Like I'm limping, running. Like I'm in so much pain. Um, during that Senior Bowl stuff. So this is fall of 2015. This injury doesn't heal like fully heal until January or like February, March of 2017. I was told by the doctor after my MRI that I had to take a break from football. And I was perfectly okay with that. I was like, "Oh, I'm cool. Like, I don't mind. Like, I'm just gonna walk on to UH anyway, not knowing that I wasn't even gonna go there. Like, so I'm sitting there like, so uncertain. I'm so uncertain of like my whole future at the moment, and I go through all that mental stuff with like, my weight, with college coaches like stop talking to me or not talking to me at all. I've had no like contact with any coaches my senior year. Even after the Senior Bowl game, I had a couple schools, but um, they were very, 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 very far, and I was not trying to go very far. I was trying to stay at least West Coast. Being from Hawaii, like you want to stay as close to home as possible because it's hard to go all the way to the East Coast, stay there for 4 years or 3 years. Um, and it was a bunch of small schools that hit me up. I have no regrets with my decision of going to JUCO, just because of the mental aspect of getting through, and that was a big learning curve for me. Was pushing through, getting through, the things that I've been through mentally with my injuries and stuff. And then dealing with this injury now. Fast forward, not to be all over the place, but dealing with these injuries, it takes a toll on you as far as the exhaustion. And I'm not talking about like physically exhausting, but emotionally exhausting, because it's like, oh, here we go again, and I have to restart. You start off square one like you're a baby, like having to has to be on your back and then having to be on your stomach and then learning how to crawl, learning how to roll, and then learning how to get up and lean against the couch, and learning how to walk and all that. That's what it feels like having to restart from square one with these big injuries. And so with this one that I have now, it's harder because this is something that I really can't fix, with with um with like doing a bunch of rehab and doing this, that, and the third. Like I literally have to rest for this injury to heal, and like take these medications that I'm taking. It's hard, like, because you know, one moment you're healthy, the next moment you're not. And unfortunately for me, like that's just the story it's been for the past 3 years or 2 years. Has been my health, and it's unfortunate, but like when you don't, I'll say this every time, like if you don't go, you won't know the feeling until you go through it. Like until you actually go through it. Once you go through it, then you know how it feels, and now you're sitting there like, wow, like I don't know how some people do it with these injuries, especially back to back. Like this is my second back to back injury that I've had. My second back to back. And so I know what this is like. I know how to deal with it. But at some point, when does it end? Is the question that I always ask myself. When will it end? And I don't think that's a question for me to even know the answer to, or I don't even think that's a question to begin with. Nobody ever knows. Anyway, so and I had a support system. I still do. Family and friends and my cousins and stuff, my brothers. They all understand where I'm coming from, and like they know what I represent with my football with my football dreams and aspirations. They also understand, like it's just some people's body just respond differently. Like it's unfair, but it's also not my fault. So um, it was just difficult. It's just been difficult to kind of deal with more injuries on top of not having film, for one, not having film, for two, um, not knowing if you're even going to be on the team because you're so hurt. Like you've just been hurt, and that's the business within this business is if you're not producing, like you need to go, and that's unfortunate. But for some cases, obviously, like mine, like it's kind of different, just because like the coaches know how hard I work, and they know I'm not gonna take it for granted. Like I'm gonna enjoy, like I enjoy being here. Like I enjoy like my whole process. Like I've just enjoyed it because I've been everything I've learned. Every time I've been through something like this, I've learned something every single time, and that's the best part about this injury stuff is learning, and I'm a sponge. So, no, I was born at the water, um, and so it's so easy for me to learn. It's so easy for me to like obtain information, and it's so easy for me to really want to know things and learn and be on top of my game. And so and the coaches really appreciated that. They still do. And I think it's just with me, um, I just have to get healthy. And at the moment, um, having to deal with this injury has been so tough. Can't even lie. Like there's been times, especially a couple weeks ago, like I've wanted to just be done, like and just be done. And what I mean by being done is like just being done with life in itself, because all I've just been dealt nothing but a bad hand, like a terrible hand. Like I've been dealt a terrible hand dealing with these injuries, and it's like I hate to pull the why card, but why? Like why me? Like people who know me know I'm a great person. Like I don't judge nobody. I don't. Like I'm not envy of anybody. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, I was better than this one, or I was better than that, or uh, I should have been doing that while somebody else is succeeding. Like I'm not like that's not me. And the worst part about all of this was watching people's careers go by. As I'm the oldest person, like I'm one of the oldest guys on the team, and I've literally watched people's careers go by, and I've been in school longer than them. I started college in 2016. There's people who started their college in 2019 and have graduated and are done playing football. And it's 2023 and I'm still in school and I'm still playing football. And like when they're supposed to watch my career go by, I've watched theirs. So like thinking about that has made me, extremely blessed, but also has made me extremely frustrated. It has made me extremely extremely sad, because it's like I'm still stuck here. Like I'm still stuck in this loop. Like I feel like it's a loop, like a hamster wheel. Like I'm just keep going and going with no like repercussions, no reward, nothing. Like my reward is doing it again and doing it again, doing it again. So, and it's not a bad thing either. Like, I know there's a bunch of guys who are just like who have the same situation like me, still in school, and just been plagued by injuries, and that's literally what it is. Like, I've just been plagued with injuries, and it's not my fault. Like, that's the one thing I've had to look into as well, is like none of this is my fault. Because I have like a big, I'm so hard on myself to where I will blame myself for a lot of things. And it's not like I blame myself for these injuries, but I also like blame myself for not being like done with college football, even though like everybody else's path is different. Like there's people I've grown up with who are in the league now, and it's or who I've played against and are in the league now and have been in the league for about 2-3 years now. It'll be their third year, I believe, this year. And it's kind of weird because I'm like, I'm if you're 3 years in, I'm supposed to be 3 years in. So that's how I look at it, and I will blame myself for taking the long route, but not really understanding people's situations are different, and like, and that's something obviously it comes with age when you think about it like that, and just being wise, uh, and so yeah, I've grown to be more wise. Um, Obviously, I'm a little older, and so I just try to pass on the knowledge that I have, dealing with these injuries and dealing with my hard times, to the young guys who come in with their injuries, or they come in and they get hurt like majorly, and then I gotta talk to them about, or I'll just go over there and talk to them about like dealing with it and embracing that, like just embrace the injury itself. Like, yep, I tore my knee up, or I broke my ankle, or broke my collarbone. Collarbones aren't that bad, like as far as the length wise. Like you're not out for the season if you broke your collarbone. Obviously, you break in the middle of the season, then yeah. But with like season-ending injuries, no, I like passing on knowledge, of really giving the young guys an understanding of embracing the injury itself. And once you embrace the injury itself, everything else takes care of itself. Everything else takes care of itself. Like, I've done more mental stuff than physical stuff at this point when I got injured, just because I know the physical stuff will just take care of itself. Like, I'm gonna be doing rehab, I'm gonna be doing treatment, things of that nature. Like, all that is just like, that is that, and that is its own thing, because I have to do that if I'm gonna get better. With everything else, the mental part, like, that's on you. And I think that's where a lot of athletes fall into the trap of, just doing rehab and just doing treatment and just doing recovery when they get hurt or have a season-ending injury, like, or have any injury in general, and they are out for some time. They just do that and not really aren't aware of their feelings, and they hold it in until it's too late. And it's not their fault that they do that, because I've been a victim of doing that as well. I'm a victim of it. And like, in terms of getting over your injury, or getting through your injury in general mentally, is understanding it's a part of the journey, and it's not the end. Like, by any means, it's not the end, unless obviously it's a crazy extreme injury. But your injury itself is never the end. And so that's kind of where I've had to really think and really understand that none of it was the end. It was only the beginning. And it's literally the beginning. You're being reborn like it's kind of weird to say, but you're being reborn in a way of knowing is finding out who you are and finding out what you're gonna do with your situation and how you're gonna rise above it. And I've been able to do all three of those things, but in reverse, and like within its totality. So, which is a good and bad thing because I've been in the deepest, darkest depths of my head, and it's not a good place to be. It's not a great place to stay. I will say that, um, you know, but getting through those injuries definitely, is something that it teaches you a lot. Um, you're being reborn, and you get to show the people, to show the world, if you want to put it that way, of what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do um, with your new self? And that's just how it is, really. Um, the next video, hold on, 1 second. Perfect. Um, in the next video, I'm gonna be talking about just mental health in general. Um, the next one is about mental health in general, and I will be talking about the things that I've been through, as far as as far as my mental health goes, the things I've done, my attempts, um, you know, and just being vulnerable to people around you, asking for help, and kind of being open to that help, and not just getting help, but wanting it. And I think that's very important, it's as far as the athlete's mind goes, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We have a lot of pressure on us. Coaches may say it's not pressure, but if we don't perform, then obviously like it looks bad on us. And they got to make changes like, oh, you won't start this week, or this, you won't start next week, or whatever. And so it's a lot of pressure, both ways. And it's a lot of people's identity. It's what they've only known for a very long time since they were small. Like some people played the sport once they started being able to run and sprint and throw and all the things of that nature and kick, and so when it's all they know, it's who they attach themselves to. And it's unfortunate that that becomes their enemy. Their worst enemy is the sport itself that they've grown to love so much, and for it to turn against them in a way that they feel like they can't really look to the sport, for comfort anymore, but more so like a job. And when you don't do well at your job, the results can be negative, and it could really change the course of your life and whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about mental health. Just in general, I cut my own hair, by the way. So, if you see me looking crispy, don't ask for my barber. It is me. But yeah, I'll see y'all. Appreciate it.